Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into some source material that touches on something truly profound. We're going to explore this massive, almost cinematic shift in human psychology, the alchemical transition from being stuck in a state of paralyzed overthinking straight into grounded, sovereign action. If you've ever felt like your mind is racing 10 steps ahead while your actual life is standing completely still, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get right into it.
It's a painful paradox, isn't it? We live in an era where you literally have the greatest minds, the sharpest strategies, and the deepest philosophies right at your fingertips in seconds. But why does acquiring all this incredible knowledge sometimes leave us completely frozen? You end up in this agonizing state where your mind is basically orbiting Jupiter, calculating, planning, envisioning, but your physical body, it's just stuck right here on Earth, totally immobilized.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this quote from the text hits really hard. Potential is the sweetest poison. Think about that for a second. When we endlessly consume self-improvement material or new frameworks, we genuinely feel like we're growing, right? But very often, it morphs into this brilliant hiding mechanism. Potential feels safe purely because it hasn't been tested yet. It's kind of like having 50 browser tabs open on how to start a business, but never actually filing the paperwork. Left unchecked, that endless potential literally poisons your ability to actually live your life.
So that brings us to Section 1, the epidemic of preparation, which really highlights the modern trap of thinking we're just one more piece of information away from finally being ready.
The text breaks down the symptoms of this epidemic, and they are so recognizable. It points to intellectual addiction, where learning entirely replaces doing. It highlights avoidance disguised as deep reflection. It talks about brilliant people just sitting around waiting for some external permission slip from the universe that, let's be honest, is never going to come. And finally, that infamous tutorial hell loop. Ultimately, the source argues that what drives all of this is a deep fear of real-world friction. We end up substituting actual, messy living with a clean, predictable digital simulation, simply because the simulation doesn't reject us.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core disconnect going on here. On one side, we've got the highly evolved, wildly overstimulated mind fed every single day by infinite, weightless simulation. But on the other side, the physical body, and it is utterly starved of tactile, resistant, real-world feedback. Because the body hasn't actually moved, it simply no longer believes the mind's grand visions. Essentially, the mind is writing checks the body hasn't been trained to cash.
This shifts us over to Section 2, playing versus creating, which is the crucial psychological pivot between merely reacting to the world and actually moving it.
Just look at this contrast here. When you're just playing the game, you're waiting for signals, you're seeking validation, and reacting to the field around you. You wait for the perfectly safe moment to strike. But creating the game, that requires imposing your own frame. It means acting from an internal necessity, stepping right into the void, and forcing reality to adapt to your presence, rather than the other way around.
I want you to hear this unfiltered truth directly from the source. Players seek safety before moving. Creators move the world to find safety in their movement. The material is basically urging us to snap out of this passive state. It argues that we've got to stop auditioning for the circus, hoping the world will give us a good grade. The safety you're looking for absolutely does not exist in stillness. It's generated entirely by your own momentum. Moving right along to Section 3, the myth of the lake, which introduces a massive paradigm shift regarding our modern definition of peace and sovereignty.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this definition totally dismantles everything we've been taught about success. We so often think abundance means having zero friction, a perfectly still life where absolutely nothing goes wrong. But the text argues that true abundance is not the absence of a storm. It's the ability to maintain unshakable internal authority right in the dead center of the chaos.
So don't aim to be the dead, perfectly still lake. Be the mountain in the storm. True power isn't found by escaping the world to hide in a quiet room where you can control every little variable. No, true power is found in remaining entirely calm and anchored while you surf the totally chaotic, unpredictable waves of reality. Which brings us to Section 4, the power of friction. We have to bring this philosophy down to earth now by exploring exactly why the human soul desperately needs the physical world. We literally have to return to matter. The text insists that the soul needs physical reality to validate its own existence. It needs you to touch things again. It means actually sending that terrifying email, building that messy, imperfect prototype, or speaking your truth out loud where real people can hear you. And yes, risking rejection. By taking these hits, you close that agonizing gap between thought and action. 5 minutes of grounded doing vastly outweighs 5 hours of elevated thinking. And when you finally do act, and maybe the results disappoint you, you have to remember this. The universe doesn't pay you immediately. It tests if you're real. When you face failure, it's not a humiliation. It's simply reality calibrating your internal authority, looking you dead in the eye, and asking if you're going to keep moving even when the applause isn't there.
Let's move to Section 5, Building Authority, and see how this builds into highly actionable steps you can use to forge this internal sovereignty today.
The source frames this so beautifully. You are the fire, and your physical body, your daily habits, your routines, that is the cup. Right now, your fire might be way too big for your cup. The core argument here is that discipline isn't some sort of punishment designed to restrict your freedom. Not at all. Discipline is the essential scaffolding required to hold your immense potential. It ensures your flame warms the room instead of just burning the whole house down.
So how do we actually build that vessel? The source material introduces a protocol called Gilbert 120, which is basically a minimum viable day. Notice how simple and grounded this rhythm is. 6:30 a.m., wake up and move the physical body. Sweat, breathe, interact with gravity. 7:15 a.m., create something before consuming anything at all. 10:30 a.m., execute one microsocial act of discomfort, maybe a pitch, a difficult conversation, just a real-world connection. Then 9 p.m., reflect on the day's physical actions. It's this daily rhythm of imperfect real-world micro-movements that successfully anchors the wandering mind right back to reality.
Let's quickly summarize this action protocol. First, disconnect from endless consumption so you can actually hear the sound of your own mind. Second, take one micro-action without expecting immediate results. You have to strip away that bargain that action must equal instant reward. And third, reflect only after you have acted. See, you don't need a grand, flawless plan. You only need a revolution of attention and the courage to make small decisions that carry actual real-world consequences.
If you take away anything from this explainer today, let it be this core takeaway from the source. The ground will appear beneath your feet. You are not meant to find the path perfectly laid out before you. You're meant to generate the path through your own momentum. Every time you take a step in truth, the ground will rise up to meet you.
So the only thing left to ask is this: what is your next movement? Not your next thought, not your next explainer. What actual, physical action will you take the very moment this ends? Step away from the screen, step right into the friction, and start creating your game.